Hello students, welcome to Learner's Planet. Let us continue with the chapter Cell, Structure and Functions. In the earlier sessions, I explained to you that each and every living organism is made up of cell. That is, the cell is the basic structural and functional unit of life. And these cells, they are having some common features with respect to its function and structure. Despite of these common features or these similarities, they are of different types. That means there is the existence of variety of organisms or variety of cells among these particular organisms, right? So in today's session we are going to discuss about the structure of the cell. That is, what are the different parts present in the cell, or the parts that are making the structure of the cell and making it a functional unit of life, right? So let us see all these basic things now. See, the different basic components of the cells that are present in each and every cell which is existing on this planet, right? Or any organism, the cell present in any type of organism, these are some common features that are present within the cell. And what are these basic parts? They are the cell membrane, then the cytoplasm, and there is the nucleus. So these basic structures, they are present in each and every type of cell. You can see this diagram here. It is shown in this picture that it is an example, or it is a diagram of a eukaryotic cell, right? And in the eukaryotic cell there is a well distinct, well developed nucleus over there, and there are some cell membrane bound organelles. Fine. So basic components that we are highlighting in this particular slide, it is the cell membrane. What is the cell membrane? It is the outer boundary, right? It is the outer covering of the cell. Then there is the inside this particular boundary, or we can say that inside this envelope there is some filled mass over there. Granular jelly-like substance is filled inside this particular membrane, or it is the mass is enclosed by the cell membrane, and this particular matrix or the mass is known as the cytoplasm, right? And this cytoplasm is basically made up of some chemicals, some tubular bodies over there, and they are making a medium in which different types of organelles are present in the functional form. Fine. Besides this, the another common part present in each cell is the nucleus. Nucleus is known as the brain of the cell. It is also known as the director of the cell. In our body, our brain is playing the major role, which is controlling all the different functions of our body. So similar function in the cell is performed by the nucleus, and this is why it is known as the brain of the cell, right? So you can see this picture, and now we will study about each and every different part briefly in the further session or the further part of this session, right? So let us begin with the very first part of the cell, and that is the cell membrane. So as we have already discussed that this cell membrane is the outermost boundary of the cell, right? Or it is also, we can say, we can compare it with the cover of the cell, right? Which is actually separating the inner environment of the cell from the outer environment. So it is here serving as a barrier, right? And of course inside this particular boundary there is some space, and that space is actually filled with the cytoplasm or the granular mass inside, and there is the presence of nucleus. So this nucleus and cytoplasm, they are enclosed within the cell membrane, right? In other terms, in other way, we can just say one more thing here, that inside the cytoplasm there is not only the nucleus which is present. We are highlighting these two things, that is cytoplasm and nucleus, which are enclosed within the cell membrane. But besides these two structures, there is the presence of different structures also. But why we are highlighting only these two terms over here? Is there no other structure present inside the cytoplasm? They are present, but in the most simplest form, or we can say beginning from a unicellular organism, the most simplest unicellular organism, till the most complex multicellular organism. These two things are essentially present in the similar way, right? They are definitely present. But further we can say the other parts, like chloroplast or the mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes, these structures, they may be present in the simplest form or they may not be present. But in multicellular high organisms, they are definitely present, isn't it? So in the cell, we can say it may be present or it may not be present depending on the type of organism. But of course, besides this, the cytoplasm and nucleus, it is definitely present in the functional form. Then only the cell can function properly, and it is supporting the life of an organism. Fine. So further, this cell membrane is also known as the plasma membrane, right? Plasma, because it is having some fluidity, or we can say it is somewhat flexible, and due to this flexible nature, it is actually called as the plasma membrane. And of course, it is a membrane is the thin layer, right? So this thin layer, which is having quite more flexibility, that is actually known as the plasma membrane. Fine. Now, plasma membrane, it is porous in nature, right? If somebody asks you about the nature of this particular membrane, then I can say, or even you can answer, that this plasma membrane is porous in nature. And if it is porous, then what do you think? What will be the property supported by it? See, you know what is porous? It means that there is the presence of pores in between. The plasma membrane is having the pores in between. So if the pores are present, right, then of course it can allow the transport of material from these pores, right? So the another important characteristic feature is that since it is porous, it will allow the movement of substances or the materials, of course. Now, where this movement will take place? Definitely either it will go inside or it will move outside. It can move inside see, the cell is surrounded by different chemicals or different types of material, right? And from these material, some things might be required by the cell. So from that, the material will be transported inside. And how they can be transported inside? Because they are porous in nature. Similarly, the material which is not required inside the cell, inside the cytoplasm, what will happen to it? It has to be removed out. So these type of substances, they can move outside through these particular pores. Now, if it is porous, maybe a concept or maybe one point striking your mind, that if it is porous, then why all type of materials are not transported? It is only see, if everything is transported in or out, the life could not be maintained. Like just consider your own body, right? At a higher body organization level, if we keep on eating everything and all the time, what will happen? In one way only, right? I'm not saying that the material is excreted out further. I'm simply saying if we keep on eating all and different types of materials from outside to inside, what will happen? It will burst. Or on the other hand, if we are eliminating everything from our body, what will left out behind? Nothing. So life is not possible. That means in this case, our body is functioning in the controlled and coordinated manner, similarly this type of movement is also taking place in the controlled and coordinated manner. The things which are required, only they are going to transport across the membrane, right? And due to this reason, the plasma membrane is also known as the selective membrane. Why? Because the selected molecules or substances are only transported. Fine. Now, besides this, as we can say that now they are present, so it is serving as a barrier. From this point, it must be clear that it is not allowing that complete transport over there, so it is serving as a barrier over there. But since it is allowing the movement of certain important molecules, then it is known as the selective membrane. Yeah, I hope it is very clear to you. Now, the cell membrane is made up of, chemically it is made up of proteins and the lipids. And I hope that you must have heard about these two particular things or the molecules. Proteins, they are made up of amino acids. See, since beginning, your parents must be forcing you that you should take protein rich diet, you should take milk because it is having proteins in that, you should eat different types of pulses and so on. Why? Because they are having proteins, and proteins, they supports your growth, right? So as this protein is required in our body, it is actually making a basic structural part of the cell. It is the most important structural element in our body. And of course, body is made up of what? The cells. So these membranes, they are made up of proteins. Number one. Number two, they are having the lipids. This layer is made up of lipids. Now, you know what are these lipids? Lipids are the molecules which are made up of long hydrocarbon chains. Might be you don't understand that what is this hydrocarbon. I hope so that you can understand that definitely. So hydro means water. I'm sorry. Hydro means hydrogen. Carbon means carbon. So these carbon molecules and hydrogen molecules, right? They are together forming the long chain structures. And these long chains, which are made up of carbon and hydrogen, these are known as the lipids. Now, beside these hydrocarbon chains, they are also having a functional group over it, which is attached to these chains, right? And that is actually hydrophilic. Fine. See, hydrocarbon chains, they are hydrophobic. That means they tends to move away from the water. You understand phobia, the fear about with something. So lipids are hydrophobic. The chains are hydrophobic. That means they tend to move away from the water. Whereas the attached group over it, as I said earlier, the functional group attached over these hydrocarbon chains, they are hydrophilic. That means they move towards the water. Fine. So now see why I am telling you these points, because if you understand this basic property of lipid, it will be more easy for you to understand that how these lipid and the proteins are present in they are forming the plasma membrane, or they are separating the inner and outer world of the cell, right? So this property is very clear to you. Now let me show you one picture that can explain that how these lipids and proteins are arranged in the plasma membrane. Fine. See, this is a picture of the plasma membrane. Fine. What I said earlier, that these particular plasma membranes, they are made up of lipids and the protein molecules. Fine. Now lipids, they are making, or they are arranged in two layers here. You can see this round circular bodies or with orange color, and these two tails here, right? This single particular molecule is a single lipid molecule, right? And you can see that these are arranged here in the layer, and alternatively it is having this another layer in which the these orange bodies are facing towards the bottom side, and the tails are facing the tails of the another lipid molecule present in the another layer. This is how they are arranged. You remember I just explained that these are having the hydrophobic as well as the hydrophilic ends. So what will happen because of this thing? See, in that case, these in the external side, let us say this is the outer side of the cell and this is the inner side of the cell. Fine. So in the inner environment, there is the water molecules in the cytoplasm, right? Then if we observe the exterior side of the cell, then again there is a presence of water, and that is the aqueous medium over there, isn't it? So if on each side the water molecules are present, then what will happen? These tails, right? These hydrophobic tails, they tend to move towards the inner side. They tend to be arranged in the inner side of this particular membrane, right? This is why the two chains or these hydrocarbon chains are facing towards the inner side of this bilayer structure. Fine. And since these ends or the functional groups present over these chains, they are hydrophilic, so they will be present on the exterior side of the layer, right? So this is one layer here. Fine. And this one is the second layer, and this is how they are forming the bilayer structure, right? Therefore, since these molecules are arranged in two layers, therefore it is known as the bilayer structure. Fine. Besides that, which other thing is present? It is the proteins. Now protein is not forming any layer here inside, rather it is present in between these particular molecules. That is the bilayer structure of the lipid molecules. So you can see that these are present within these two layers, right? And some molecules are there which are present on either exterior side or on the interior side of this membrane. Fine. So the position of proteins is accordingly present over there in the bilayer structure, and they are serving as they are having the important functions over there. They help in the transport of material, right? Secondly, these molecules, they are having which molecules? Lipid molecules. They are having some spaces in between, due to which the membrane is actually porous in nature. Now, besides protein and the carbohydrate molecules, the another moiety present here is the carbohydrate, or some other groups are also present, so as to maintain the structure of these particular cells and so as to maintain the function of the cells. So depending on the function of a particular type of cell, these groups may vary. The type of protein may vary in these particular plasma membrane. Fine. But of course, the basic layer or the membrane is made up of the lipid molecules. Fine. So now just I will show you a simple flow chart so as to just highlight the main functions of the plasma membrane. Fine. See, the main function of this plasma membrane is that it is serving as the barrier. Barrier between what? Barrier between the inner and external environment of the cell, right? And of course this barrier is present over there, so it is actually controlling the flow of material within the cell. Now if I am saying flow of material within the cell, what does it mean? It means that barrier, it has separated the external and inner environment, but internally each part of the cell, it has to communicate with each other so as to carry out the function in the proper manner, right? So for that, the materials have to be transported from one particular organelle to the another organelle, isn't it? Then only the coordination, then only the proper communication will be will set up in these particular parts of the cells, isn't it? So these structures, even they are having the membranes over there. It is not only present as a barrier in the external side, right? It is not present only as an external boundary, but rather there are different parts which are again separated from the cytoplasm with the help of the cell membranes. So internally they are maintaining the flow of material within the cell. Besides this, they are also controlling the exchange of material in and out of the cell. So within the cell and in and out of the cell, both type of exchange of material is actually controlled by this particular barrier. Now if it is present in the external as an external boundary, then it is known as the plasma membrane, and if it is present in surrounding some organelle, then it is simply known as the cell membrane, right? Besides this, another important function of plasma membrane is endocytosis. You know what is this endocytosis? Endo means inside. Cytosis means breaking down inside the cell, right? So basically we are saying something is breaking down inside the cell. What does it mean? It means that plasma membrane helps in recognizing and capturing the unwanted materials present in surrounding the cell, in the nearby region or externally to the cell. So when it recognizes, it will capture it and it will engulf it inside the cell, and inside the cell there will be some enzymes or some other material which will attack on these particular things which has been engulfed here, and then it will break it down. So endo means engulfing the things, the unwanted material inside the cell and breaking it down by the aid of some enzymes present inside the cell. Now this occurs inside the vacuole. Okay, it is not happening in the cytoplasm, but it is taking place inside some vacuoles or the lysosomes also. Fine. So this is what we mean by the endocytosis. So how this endocytosis is actually possible? It is because of the plasma membrane. So this is about the plasma membrane, and I hope you have understood it very properly. Fine. In some organisms or in some types of cells, this plasma membrane is having, or it is covered by another thick layer also, and that thick layer is known as the cell wall. Although cell wall is not present in all of the cells, all different types of cells, it is present in only few types of organisms. But of course it is playing a very important role and is serving as an external outer covering in these particular cells. So now let us understand that what is this extra covering of this extra covering over the plasma membrane in some of the cells. Fine. So students, as I said that this cell wall, this outer boundary is present as an additional covering over the cell membrane, right? Cell membrane or the plasma membrane. It is not present in the cell membrane of any of the organelle. It is just an external covering, external additional covering over the plasma membrane. Okay. Now, second thing what I said is that it is present in some of the cells. It is not present in all type of organisms. It is present in the plant cells. And this presence of the cell wall in the plant cells and its absence in the animal cell is the most important difference between the plant and the animal cells. Now, if I am saying that it is the most important difference between the plant and the animal cell, then it is not so that cell wall is not present in any other type of organism. Right. For example, we can say that this cell wall is also present in the bacterial cell. Bacteria, it is a unicellular organism. Fungus, even that is also having the cell wall in its surrounding. But animal cell is never having the cell wall. This is for sure. Fine. Next thing is that it is a very thick layer as compared to the plasma membrane. Plasma membrane was a thin membrane. It is a thin membrane actually, we should say, and comparatively this plant cell wall is a thick layer, right? And is actually thick. Besides that, it is having dead nature. Plasma membrane is a living membrane, and the cell wall is actually a dead membrane. Now, I know the question must be striking your mind. You might be getting some confused at this point that if it is a living cell, then why are we saying that cell wall is a dead cell, a dead membrane, right? It should not be a dead membrane. Basically, you know why we call this cell wall as a dead membrane or the dead layer. The reason behind this is that because by some means, if we remove the cell wall from the cell can still survive. But if we remove the plasma membrane of the cell, then the cell cannot sustain its life or it cannot survive. Right? So the presence of the cell wall is actually meant for providing the protection, for providing the shape to the cells and providing rigidity to the cells. But its absence is not affecting the function of the cell, which is regarding some life sustaining processes. So this is a reason why we are calling the cell wall as the dead membrane. And of course, alternatively, now why this plasma membrane is it is living membrane? because if it is removed, the function cannot take place. It is present as a cover. It is protecting the internal environment, as well as it is controlling the exchange of material, the flow of material in and out of the cell. And of course, if it is removed, such flow cannot take place, and if the flow is not taking place, definitely the cell cannot survive, right? So these are the basic things about the cell wall. Next thing is that you remember the plasma membrane. Chemically, it is made up of what? Lipids and the proteins. But cell wall is not made up of lipids and the proteins. Rather, it is exclusively made up of carbohydrates. Have you heard about cellulose? It is a type of carbohydrate. I know you must have heard about it. It's present in the fibers and all. So this cellulose is the most important component of the cell wall in plant cells. But in some other cells, it is made up of some other molecules. Well, I can show you one picture so as to just explain that how these cellulose molecules are present in the cell wall. Fine, and then you can compare this membrane with the plasma membrane also. So this picture is showing the structure of the cell wall. In plants, as I said, it is made up of cellulose molecules, right? But the chemical composition of the cell wall present in the fungus and the bacteria is quite different from the one which is present in the plants. But of course, function-wise, it is having the same role. Fine. In this case, now you can see this last membrane. This is actually showing the plasma membrane here. Fine. And you remember that this plasma membrane is a bilipid layer in which the protein molecules are also present. Now, above this bilayer structure, another thick layer is present, which we call as the cell wall. Fine. In that case, the cellulose molecules, they are arranged or they are together forming the long fibers. Fine. So these blue structures that you can observe here, these are the microfibrils, and these microfibrils, they are made up of cellulose. You understand what is a fiber? It's a long elongated structure, right? And since these structures, these cellulose fibers, they are also the elongated structures which are present in bundles here. But since they cannot be observed with the naked eyes, so we call them as the microfibrils. Right. Now these bundles of cellulose are present here, and they are attached together. Right. They are bind together with another molecule which is known as the pectin. These terms may sound quite scary for you, but of course these terms you must know actually, right? So fine, it is the basic thing that you know is it is made up of cellulose, but how these cellulose molecules are present here, that is something important. So just to explain that thing, I have just shown you this picture, right? So these are attached together through the special molecules known as the pectin molecules. Fine. So this structure is forming the primary cell wall, and further another thing is that the different plant cells, they are actually attached together. But in between the cell wall of two plant cells, there is another thin layer which is known as the middle lamella. So they are separated from each other through these structures known as the middle lamella, right? So this is the basic structure of the cell wall. Well, now let us just summarize the basic functions of the cell wall. Okay. See, the cell wall is a dead structure, so it provides the mechanical strength to the cell. Fine. Besides this, it is porous in nature, so it also helps in the exchange of material. That means it can also help in the transportation of material across the cell. But of course, the major control is actually maintained, or the selective control is maintained by the plasma membrane. Besides this, the adjacent cells, they are having a middle lamella in between, right? So this middle lamella and the cell wall, it helps in establishing the interaction between the adjacent cells, right? They are not isolating the cells, rather they help in the intercommunication between the two adjacent cells in the plant body or other organisms. Fine. Besides this, cell wall is meant for providing the protection to the cell, and this is one of the most important function of the cell wall. See, the bacteria or the basic, these simple unicellular organisms, those who are having the cell wall, they are surrounded by different environment over there, isn't it? So this cell wall provides protection. Even in the plant cell, they have to stand erect in the particular position, isn't it? So they need extra protection because they cannot run away from any of the change in their surrounding. So basic protection is provided by the cell wall. Fine. Further, it provides the turgidity to the cell. So turgidity, see, when there is a flow of water inside the cells, it tends to swell up, right? And when it gets swell up, definitely it is going to help in maintaining the structural integrity of the cell. So this is how the cell wall is providing turgidity to the cell also. Fine. So this is all about the plasma membrane and the cell wall. Next, we will continue with some other part of the cell, and then so we will come back with that another session, right? Till then, thank you so much. Have a nice day. Goodbye.